Deep in the frigid wasteland of the Arctic Circle, a rampaging colossus charges across the tundra. All that stands in the monster's way is brutally rent asunder, as the blood-stained form of Doomsday races toward the horizon, with nothing but violence and horror in his wake. As he moves, unheard by his alien ears, radio waves transmit across the snowy ice sheets. Scientists track Doomsday's every move as he travels with purpose toward his destination. Suddenly, Doomsday comes across an encampment of civilians. Tower Control, do we intervene? The team tracking the monster asks desperately. But then, something truly unexpected happens. Something's wrong. He's just walking away, the surveillance team informs the tower. Never before has the monstrous Doomsday ever chosen to ignore a potential victim. Then, without warning, Doomsday brings one gargantuan fist into the ice, cracking and splitting the entire sheet into slivers. The civilians, polar bears, and even Doomsday himself plunge into the icy depths below. He destroyed the entire iceberg. The onlooker radios in shock. The control center responds, because that was the quickest way to get to the water. We have no idea how his brain works. But he's planning something. This may not be the same old Doomsday after all. Even as suspicions form, Doomsday begins swimming further and further down, disappearing below the Arctic ice. Days after Doomsday was last sighted, the beast himself finally emerges from the inky depths, surrounded by a graveyard of deep-sea monsters. Subject is on the move, you got it. The communications on a nearby submarine light up. Doomsday scales the wall of the darkest trench in the world, staring with blood-red eyes at the submarine that watches him. When the submarine receives its orders to bring Doomsday in, the technological might of the ship seems impossible for Doomsday to overcome. But after the submarine unloads its weaponry toward the monster, it only takes a handful of minutes for Doomsday to rip the ship to pieces, crashing the submarine to the bottom of the ocean with a massive explosion, instantly killing all on board. Minutes later, as the crew of the submarine lay sunk and breathless at the bottom of the sea, a spiked fist erupts from the surface of the waves. Doomsday had returned. A young couple, enjoying their tropical vacation, wades blissfully in the warm ocean water. Minutes later, they are the first two victims in Doomsday's first landfall since his resurgence. Beneath their very feet, the water begins to boil them alive. Seconds later, the entire island getaway will be up in flames. Survivors will be few. Back stateside, the quaint Kansas town of Smallville has been visited by a disturbing wave of comas. The entire population, in fact, had keeled over, simultaneously trapped in a shared, unresponsive state. The government arrives, under the direction of Samuel Lane, to oversee and diagnose the problem. Directly on their heels, Superman arrives back in his hometown, eager to assist. In 25 words or less, he tells the army what happened to these people. With a quick glance at the victims, using his supervision, Superman wasn't able to detect anything abnormal with the coma patient's physiology. "Superman, you came in pretty fast," Senator Lane told him. "Did you take in the crop circles from above? Were you able to make anything out of them?" Without another word, Superman circles overhead, staring down at the strange runes carved into the local farmers' cornfields. Kryptonian. Superman identifies the language immediately. They're all spelling the same word, he realizes. Picking up something strange with his heightened vision, Superman lands, only to feel the all-too-familiar pain of kryptonite. Indeed, a strange green glowing man sits on the steps, his very aura sapping Clark's powers. "I am the Eradicator of Krypton," the man says. "You murder worlds," Superman whispers weakly, grimacing as the Eradicator strides closer and closer. "Nothing so banal, Cal," the man replies. "We are merely servants of entropy. I have no purpose on Earth. No, Earth will die. Brutally. Savagely. Earth is going to be murdered, Clark." Even as he can feel his life force leaving him, Clark manages a few words. "Beer." Destroyed by Doomsday, suddenly, the Eradicator hurls Superman into the air, launching Clark all the way into the upper atmosphere. "No, Superman," the being tells Clark before sending him skyward. "By you." The second Clark's powers return, he whips his head back toward Kansas, but the Eradicator is already gone. Shaken and confused, Clark wastes no time in calling for an immediate meeting of the Justice League. Back in Metropolis, Lois Lane goes about her daily duties, although something seems a bit off about the Daily Planet's star reporter. She speaks to no one as she walks the halls of the newsroom. As she walks past her boss's office, Perry calls out, "You're still here? I thought you'd be at the airport already." Lois speaks only one word, in a deep, commanding, otherworldly tone, "Stop." Perry falls face first into a deep sleep on his desk. "They're ready, my lord," Lois whispers out the window. It won't be long now. Out in the dark void of the universe, a terrifying psychic monster known as Brainiac hears her message. You have done well, my bride. It telepathically shoots back into Lois's mind. It is an honor, Collector, the brainwashed reporter replies eagerly. Sitting in his colossal fortress of solitude, Clark tries to make sense of all that has happened in the last few days. He uses the Kryptonian tech in his ice castle to scan for possible geographic anomalies, hoping to catch Doomsday before he can strike again. However, before his scan captures any results, Cyborg calls into the Man of Steel and relays some horrible news. When Superman arrives on the scene of the destroyed tropical island, he can barely handle the carnage and sheer destruction that awaits him. Minutes earlier, fighter jets had screamed across the sky toward the besieged island paradise. No survivors, the pilots were told. As they approach, what they see will haunt them for the rest of their lives. Doomsday, in all his terrible glory, stands amidst the fire and rubble, killing anything and everything in sight. Doomsday's mere presence is enough to set anything close to him alight in hellfire. One by one, the jets begin to break apart in the air as they draw closer to Doomsday. The pilots eject, confident these are their last moments on Earth. Until Superman arrives at the last second, scooping the pilots up from freefall and saving their lives. Clark carries the pilots back to the aircraft carrier. But when their helmets are removed, third-degree burns have ravaged their skin and bodies. In rage, Superman shoots back to the decimated island. 3,220, he thinks, reminding himself of the human cost of all the destruction before him. I scour the island for their killer, Clark thinks to himself as he scans his surroundings with his super senses. But those senses only show me all the people I couldn't save. Clark decides to consult Dr. Shea Veritas, one of the foremost scientific experts in the world. Confirmed, she told Superman gravely. It's Doomsday. Clark stared at the map in front of him, trying desperately to think of a plan. Is there any way you can predict where it'll show up next? Dr. Veritas shook her head. This is Doomsday you're most accustomed to meeting, she explained, as an image of the monster that killed Superman appeared on the screen. Then Veritas pulled up an updated image. When this Doomsday emerged from the ocean, the water boiled around him. The sand turned to black onyx beneath its feet. People within 100 yards spontaneously burst into flame, she explained direly. Superman could only look helplessly at the face of the monster, as Veritas continued. Whatever you fought before was just a larvae. It's now reaching its mature form. Is it? Superman asked, not looking at Veritas. Can I kill it? Veritas shrugged. I don't know if you can, but I certainly hope you do, she told Superman, without a hint of sarcasm. Meanwhile, Lana Lang successfully sneaks into the Smallville quarantine zone by hitching a ride with big shot reporter Lois Lane. The entire comatose town had been shut down by the government, but not even that could stop Lois and Lana from getting inside. In Smallville, the hazmat-suited scientists, doctors, and researchers desperately try to uncover what happened to the small Kansas farming town. Lana and Lois dive deeper and deeper into the mystery, while Lois telepathically reports everything back to her mental patron, Brainiac. Lana, seeing her family, friends, and community completely decimated, texts Clark begging him to come home right now. You've got to hold down the fort, Clark tells her. But I'll be back. I promise. Across the globe in Botswana, a photography safari turns deadly when sudden explosions rock the valley. Beasts stampede to escape. Whatever has escaped the earth. And any not lucky enough to escape burst into flame, without warning. Miles away, John Henry Irons has taken his niece on vacation, but they both watch as the smoke billows up from the fire set in Doomsday's wake. Irons orders his niece to get the first flight back to America. But what about you? She asks, fearful. They call me Steel, Natasha, he said. I'll be fine. Superman spends the day circling the planet at altitude, and when Doomsday next arrives in Mumbai, within seconds the big blue Boy Scout is there, ready to face him once more. Valiantly, Clark pummels Doomsday again and again, trying to keep the monster away from the civilian population at all cost. Further and further, Clark punches Doomsday into the solar system. Eventually, the two hit the surface of the planet Venus. As they battle, Superman forces Doomsday to the ground, sizzling the monster's skin with his heat vision, as Doomsday struggles to stand. When Clark returns to Earth, he heads straight to Smallville. But hot on his tail is Doomsday, once more emerging from a portal, and starting their fight anew. Superman is beaten and bruised, but continues to try to keep Doomsday at bay. Eventually, Clark is pinned against the ground, taking blow after blow from the beast's rocky knuckles. Superman can't take it anymore. He reaches up, ripping Doomsday clean in two. Supes falls to the ground amidst the corpse of his fallen enemy. Poison drips off his skin as he struggles for breath. Eventually, Clark collapses amidst the remnants of Doomsday, his strength entirely spent. In Clark's dreams, he sees only fire. He looks out on a valley of skulls, feeling content. Something has changed within him. I will save you, he thinks. Save you. Save you. Kill you. Suddenly, Superman awakes. He's lying in the crater where he just defeated Doomsday. Scientists, doctors and two intrepid reporters look on as Superman struggles to stand. Within moments, Wonder Woman and the rest of the League arrive. They offer Clark medical attention. All goes quiet in Smallville. Luthor arrives too, taunting Superman in his weakened state. Suddenly, Clark watches himself brutalize Lex worse than ever before, breaking his arm and sending him careening into the earth. But as quickly as the vision started, it was gone, and Clark was still being carried by Diana. Did I just? He wondered. But seeing Lex alive and well, Clark understands. No. Dreaming. He's fine. Diana lets Clark go, and Superman takes off without a word, flying northward, towards his fortress, and away from any other possible outbursts. Reaching the Alaskan wilderness, he knows that a few hours in the sun is all the medical attention his Kryptonian cells need. His dog, Krypto, meets him as he lands. Clark collapses in exhaustion, waiting for the morning sun to heal his wounds. The next day, as he rests with Krypto and his pack, hunters fly overhead. They take aim and shoot down one of the wolves, laughing as it bleeds in the snow. Superman rushes to their helicopter. Clark tries to calm his rushing anger, but when the hunters take another shot directly in his face, Superman loses all composure. He rips the helicopter in two, as if it were paper. Floating in midair, Clark looks down at the crash as he carries the men aboard to safety. It was all another dream, right? He hopes. No, Superman realizes. I did that. I'm changing. And God help me. It feels good. Eventually, Superman reaches his fortress of solitude. He places his hand against the cool ice, but the castle refuses to open. Voice print. Positive. It says. DNA analysis. Negative. Superman feels red-hot anger burning in his chest, and when he looks down, he sees rocks growing from his knuckles, his skin turning gray and chalky. Krypto begins growling at him, and Superman realizes what is coming. He zips off across the sky towards home. When he reaches Metropolis, Clark goes back to his normal life, but he can feel something terrible growing within him. In Metropolis, Wonder Woman knocks on the door of Clark Kent's apartment. Superman hasn't been seen in days, and the League is starting to worry. She knocks, receives no response, and uses her key to let herself in. The apartment is darkened and black. Clark sits alone across the room, clothed in shadow. Are you here? Are you hurt? Diana calls in. As she watches the shadowy figure carefully, Diana listens to the low, menacing rumble of Clark's words. As he rambles on, I'm afraid of you. Clark, let me help you. Superman's mouth twitches into a terrifying, evil grin. Sounds good, Diana. His words slur as he speaks. Could use some company. Superman stands, his hulking, doomsday-esque form towering over Wonder Woman. As she looks on, terrified at what Clark has become. Clark, what's happened to you? Diana whispers, as she reaches out for Superman. You're sick. The fight with Doomsday, it infected you. Clark whips a hand forward and snatches Diana's lasso out from her belt. You're going to have to kill me, he told her. It's just a matter of time. Clark stared at Diana through dead eyes. I don't want to become that. I'd rather die, he said angrily. I'm not going to kill you, Clark. Diana told him. We're not there yet. Superman's gigantic fist slammed into the floor where she was standing, nearly squashing Wonder Woman then and there. What makes you think I'm going to give you a choice? He bellowed. Enraged, Wonder Woman quickly whipped around and toppled Superman. The force of his fall smashed all the windows on the entire floor. Looking on, Batman swooped down to help, but was faced with a situation far above his power level. As he looked in at Superman's state, I have this, Diana angrily shot at Bruce as he arrived. Fine, save him, Batman said. Before gliding off into the night, Diana turned back toward Supes. Clark, enough, listen to me. If things deteriorate, then yes, I will make sure you cannot hurt anyone. Di looked into Clark's bloodshot eyes. You are stronger than this disease, Clark, she promised him. Clark, hearing her words, tried desperately to bottle the monster inside of him. Superman screamed in pain as the Doomsday virus inside of him fought back, but eventually, after releasing enough energy to nearly topple the building, Clark returned to his normal size. Weak and helpless, he stared up at Wonder Woman, mumbling apologies. I can feel it, he said. It's not gone. It's just waiting. And it wants to come back. With Superman safely in the custody of Lex Luthor, Wonder Woman, Batman, and Steel headed to the Fortress of Solitude. They had come to investigate the Phantom Zone, where they knew that Doomsday had somehow escaped from. Suddenly, as they made their way into the castle, Crypto dove into the portal. "He's on Doomsday's trail," Batman hollered, racing in after the dog. Wonder Woman followed, but stopped Steel before they entered. They had to leave someone behind to save them, in case they themselves became trapped inside the extra-dimensional prison. Nothing could have prepared the two heroes for what they saw inside the Phantom Zone. Immediately, Batman and Wonder Woman were thrust into a battle against Mongol and Non, as the two villains tried to harness the power inside the zone to escape themselves. A battle commenced. Soon, Wonder Woman and Batman were the victors, and the two were able to take a closer look at the energy source the prisoners had been trying to co-opt. A crack in the dimensional fabric was leaking energy into the Phantom Zone. Someone had been planning Doomsday's escape, and with that discovery, even more questions arose. Before they could do more digging, however, the Phantom King, the zone's first prisoner, arrived and began trying to kill the heroes with a vengeance. They were able to defeat the madman only with the help of Mongol, which left Non free to escape and face off against Steel in the Fortress of Solitude. Wonder Woman leapt out of the gate with Batman hot on her tail, taking out Non with one well-placed sucker punch. As Batman escaped with Crypto, he shouted at Steel to shut down the portal, which he successfully closed without any other breaches. Back in a prison of his own, Clark tried desperately to keep his rage in check, and Lex Luthor's specially designed cell kept him secure. Luthor and his scientists worked around the clock to try to reverse the mutation, but Superman knew deep down it was impossible. "I'm locked in my body with Doomsday," he thought. But how long before the monster breaks free? Eventually, Superman uttered but one word to his captain. "Lois," he said, before smiling up at Lex when his coworker arrived. Superman did his very best not to slip into his Doomsday form. "I want you to tell the world," he pleaded with Lois. "I can't be trusted. Not now. Maybe never again." "No one will believe that, Superman," she told him, her eyes flashing a deep purple as Brainiac once more entered her brain. "Warn them," Superman begged her. Suddenly, Superman began reeling against his chains. "The kids," he started babbling. "They need help. The Teen Titans." Then, within moments, Superman was free of his chains and rocketing through the sky towards danger. The rocky outcroppings on his skin began to pierce through, and his eyes glowed a dull, hateful red. In St. Louis, the Teen Titans were indeed battling an intimidating foe. Detritus, a golem of steel and rust, was nearly too much for them to handle. That is until Superman descended from the sky, an eerie smile upon his face. Blasting Detritus into a million pieces, he destroyed the city block in the process. Clark stood staring at the Titans, before racing back to the skies, tearing through the buildings on his ascent into the clouds. After his outburst in St. Louis, Superman approached the point of no return. His doomsday disease was becoming harder and harder for him to keep trapped inside, and things were about to take a turn for the worst. After being confronted by Steel deep in the desert, Superman explained that he could feel his dark powers growing. "Wherever I go, everything dies," he said, using his supervision to watch as the bacteria in the air around him withered in his very presence. Without meaning to, Superman squeezed Steel's hand during a handshake, nearly crushing every bone in the man's palm. Instantly, Superman brushed Steel off, screaming, "Get back!" He tried to keep the demons at bay. Suddenly, Steel's earpiece crackled to life. "Dr. Irons, this is Senator Lane. For your own safety, evacuate the area." Steel begged the general not to engage, knowing that if Superman became aggravated, he'd be unable to keep Doomsday suppressed. But the senator didn't listen. Instead, he deployed the atomic skull, piloting an aircraft humming with kryptonite, straight for Superman's location. Steel fought valiantly, trying to keep the skull from reaching Superman. But it was no use. Superman realized the atomic skull was destined to die in the crash. He ripped open the roof, offering to save him before he detonated on impact. The man refused Superman's offer, and chose to go down with the ship. Atomic Skull detonated the aircraft in mid-flight, killing himself while trying to take down Clark with him. Instead, the kryptonite tanks became aerosolized in the explosion, spreading across the planet through the atmosphere. A blanket of pure kryptonite clouds extended across the entire world, plunging it into darkness. From the depths of the explosion, a voice rumbled out from below. "Get up," it said. "No, this isn't the end," Superman's weakened voice managed to whisper. "This is just the beginning." Doomsday promised him,